salaamaaleykum mbokk yi di ñu seetaan fii ci diaspora ay mel la seen présenteur Lamine Jammeh fas yéene indi leen xibaar yi nga xam ne ñoo fi jot a jàll ci diaspora bi doomu réewi Gambie yooyu nga xamoon ne ñu nga Libanon doon saaku ndimbal pour ñibbi seen réewi Gambie àgg nañ Gambie gannaaw bi ñi nga xam ne jigéen googu mooy nga xam ne ku tudd Lovette Jallow moo leen dimbale woon ba ñu àgg ci réewi Sénégal suufu Sénégal fële ci Dakaaru Njaay nga xam ne nii fa la gouvernement Gambie na demoon na yónnee ay ndaw ñi nga xamoon ne bëggoon nañ pour jël soxna yooyu noonu delloo leen Gambie ak ñi si àndoon ak ay doom waaye nag jigéen yooyu nag xamal nañ ne carrément ne ñun duñu dem ndax jigéen googu soxna soosu tudd Lovette Jallow moo ñu dimbale bi ñu jógee Libanon àgg fii si Dakar fas yéene continuer ñibbi suñu réew Gambie kon boog duñu fi jógee ndax en tant que dégguñu si Lovette ak ñi nga xam ne ñoo koo jàppale pour yóbbuñu waaye ñun duñu ànd ak gouvernement bi nga xam ne moo ñëwoon fii tey pour ñoo jël suñu jamono ñu leen soxlee kenn ñëwul jàppale ñu waaye comme ndaw nii di Lovette Jallow ñëw na jàppale ñu pour génn ñu fee ci Libanon indi ñu fii kon fas nañ yéene pour ànd ak ñoom ba dugg suñu réew muy Gambie hani sa mbadingol ñing hebarol men kanale jantelema le président Lamine Jammeh Gambie dingol mi yalan ko to Lebanon jenal Libanon mi yalan ko Lovette Jallow wala ye ma koy num pokka bu non Libanon ngo bata ko no ka dun Sénégal sato ko no ifutata Dakar re na radio ko man sa kunda nata sambalaro ki pour kata o Gambie dingol bondi Dakar ke dundi Gambie bolo Gambie dingol fana nata tande man sa kunda na ay sambarar lalla ko ntol te bono la jang parce que Lovette Jallow wala mol ma ko ka bonom Libanon ka mol sambana fo Dakar dum batele yamaro bulu batele yamaro lamayla puka bo Dakar janka dum Gambia kono yabuta ala bala inshallah rabbi ba flalde ale batum demandin doran inshallah rabbi Lovette Jallow fong samana nale pour naay ka tiajang kon bokay dañ leen wax ne ngeen stay tuned leru bit jëleen ñu inviter Lovette Jallow mom ci bopam mi nga xamne ni moy ndawi rewi Gambia ki nga xamne mo def liggéey gu mag gogu nonu be jëlé doomi rewi Gambia yi ne kon fele ci Libanon be dugal leen ci soufi Gambia jamono yi kon stay tuned. Lovette Jallow will be with me here on this special show called The Diaspora Eye. I'm sorry. I'm sorry because you wouldn't see your mom again. Because he's passed away. I'm sorry your father has equally passed away. Your brother, sister, all gone too soon. I'm sorry that I couldn't save them because there is no cure. All our hospitals and mortuaries are full. The health system is crumbling down because most of the doctors and nurses are dying of coronavirus. Coronavirus is real. Save yourself, save me, and save your families and loved ones. By wearing a face mask, wash your hands regularly, use hand sanitizers. In this way, you protected, I'm protected, they are protected. Stay safe and stay healthy. Today I've got a very special guest, a very, very special guest that everybody have been seeing in the news headlines recently for all the right reason. Chairperson for Action for Humanity, a Pan-African, founder of Black Vote, which is a makeup for Black women, and author as well of Black Vote, and an upcoming book called A Stranger in the White Room. Winner of Justice for Peace Prize 2018, and also a winner for Solidarity Award in 2018. Welcome to the Diaspora Show, Ms. Lovette Jallow.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for joining me. Currently, Ms. Jallow, you've been on the news headlines in the Gambia and social media. Who really is Lovette Jallow?
I think that's a complicated question. I guess I'm just a regular human being like yourself and anybody who's watching this. Just a normal Gambian Swedish person who believes that she can do some good in the world. Yeah.
That's a very good word. But what was it like for you as a child growing up in Sweden? From
I think
African
it would be
background.
the similar experiences as anybody growing up in a white world. It is challenging. It is demanding to always be seen as your color before you're seen as a human being, if at all. I think those are the challenges many Black people face in white spaces, so to say. You have to cut yourself up to fit in as a child, as a teenager, as an adult, all of that. So it was challenging, to say the least. But thank God I was raised amongst strong Black women in the Gambia. So whiteness or racism cannot really break me in the same way, because I know who I am and I know what I am. I know my culture. I know my heritage. So I will never buy any idea of anybody who thinks they're better than me simply because their skin is lighter or whiter.
I know that people in the diaspora, especially countries like Sweden, face a lot of racism, and of course even in England here. But you've been out there fighting structural racism in Sweden with your NGO. But recently you've been on the news headlines for a very important subject that has been affecting migrant workers in the Arab nation, in Lebanon, to be specific. How did your NGO or yourself get in contact with these girls, or how did they get in touch with you?
Well, I did a video basically talking about the kafala system and Gambia's history with Lebanon, which has been mostly negative. And these women that were in Lebanon, Beirut, following the explosion, saw that video as it was trending on social media as well as on WhatsApp groups. And they made contact with me, asking me to help them get a clear answer from the Gambian government on when they will be repatriated. And that's how I got involved in this, first as somebody who was just trying to facilitate, get information to give it back to the women, and then it snowballed into something else.
So during this process, by any chance, did these girls tell you that they've been in touch with the Gambian government or even the Gambian consulate in Lebanon to see how best they can help them? Because during the time that the explosion went off in Beirut, which, I mean, we also send our condolences to all the families there, you know, but how exactly, did they tell you anything with their relationship with the Gambian government or the consulate trying to facilitate them going home?
They did, and it wasn't a positive one. The consulate in Lebanon, according to the women, was not giving them any clear details. And the reason he was not giving them clear details is because he had no clear details to give them from the Gambian government. So there was a breakdown in communication. And also there was a lack of information, like where is the sanctuary, where are these women supposed to go, which address. We saw the Kenyan government give all Kenyan citizens an address that if you are homeless outside, have no food, this is the address where we're going to give you rooms to stay in, food to eat whilst we repatriate you. When I called the Gambian spokesperson for Foreign Affairs, that's what I was aiming for as well. I wanted to have a clear address where the women could go to get food, to get clothing, to get medical help, and to be able to collect themselves again. I didn't get answers to that. I asked them about date of repatriation, and they were being very woolly with their answers. There was no straight answers. And looking back in hindsight, I record every single interaction I have with media or government, whether they're Swedish government or Gambian government, it doesn't matter. It's a legality in Sweden that you have a right to record them. And thank God I recorded my conversation with the spokesperson, because what image, if I didn't record him, nobody would believe me that I had that conversation. So the problem is twofold. If I record him, it's a problem for some people. If I don't record him, I will be the one that is questioning whether or not I had that conversation with the government, which I did. If there's one thing I don't do, and I think I told you that before the interview, that is lie. I don't have any reason or anything to gain from lying. I just wanted the cooperation of the government to help me facilitate communication to begin with. Yeah.
So knowing the fact that this is a country which is very, very well known for the violation of human rights, especially migrant workers from Africa. So what was the first thing that went into your mind? Knowing the fact that you have lots of Black women that suffer from being victim of racial abuse, both in Sweden and other countries, what was the first thing that came into your mind?
I can't remember the first thing that came into my mind, because this has been ongoing for almost a month. So I would be lying if I said this was the first thing on my mind. All I can tell you is I had feelings of frustration. I was very frustrated at not getting clear answers. So I wasn't thinking anything in particular, except why is the government not being forthcoming about information that is in the public interest of these women as well as all of Gambia? We have no reasons to keep secrets. If we have a date for repatriation, say it. If you have a sanctuary, say it. Then we can address that and tell the women, this is the sanctuary you can pack your bags and go to. because their house was falling down. The house they were living in was falling down from the explosion.
So immediately after that, you get in touch with the Gambian consulate in Sweden after you had the girl's side, the ladies' side. I mean, you did get in touch with the Gambian consulate, Mr. Khalid, in the Gambian embassy in Lebanon. What was it like for you trying to facilitate stuff for the ladies?
He wouldn't reply to me because he already, before I got in contact with the consulate in Lebanon, he had received directives from the Gambian government not to speak to my NGO or myself. For whatever reasons, I don't know, but we have him recorded saying that he has been instructed by the Gambian government, Sekou Cisse, via Sekou Cisse, to not speak to myself or the NGO anymore.
Yeah, is that because you think that because they were very furious that you were talking about it already on social media, or is it just that they didn't want to talk to you or they didn't want your help?
According to Khalid, who is the consulate, according to the recording I have here on my phone, he was told not to speak to me because I was supposed to gain something amazing from helping these women come home. They could not fathom that here is a Black woman who's been running an NGO for many years, ready to put the NGO money to repatriate them. In fact, we have another recording of his assistant saying, if this woman, Lovette Jallow, pays for your tickets, you can all spit on my face. So I'm getting ready to go to Beirut to do that spit 38 times for him.
So, Mr. Khalid, you have recording with Mr. Khalid, who is the Gambian consulate in Sweden, refusing to help or to work with you.
Lebanon. The consulate in Sweden.
Yes, in Lebanon. Sorry, my apologies. In Lebanon, who was refusing from directives from the Gambia that they shouldn't be working with your NGO.
Yes.
All right. What was it like and what was the reason? Did he really explain to you the reason why he refused the ladies at first to refuse their travel documents?
Well, I mean, what do you mean? Why he refused to speak to me or why he refused to give them their documents, which is their legal right?
Why he refused to speak to you, one is a question, but also why he refused...
So let's take it one at a time, just so I can understand. He refused to speak to me because the Gambian government relayed information to him that I was going to be a millionaire because of this initiative, when in reality, I was ready to use my money to facilitate this and have used my money. So it didn't make sense because we had already proven at that point to everybody that's following me, I think around 40,000 people saw my post, where I showed my bank account and showed that this money is dedicated solely to this project. So there was no receiving of money, there was only exiting of money from the account to these women. So his reasons were not valid. Khalid's reasons were not valid, period. And I guess that's why his name rhymes with invalid. So the second question you asked was, why didn't he give them their papers?
Yes, the ladies, why were they refused? These are Gambian citizens. Bear in mind, these are our own sisters, Gambian citizens. So I think our embassies, one thing the Gambian people also really need to know, I'm thankful that you're explaining this because people need to know that our embassies are in foreign countries to represent us as citizens of that country. So if a consulate is refusing to give them travel documents, that's a question mark. But what was the reason behind it?
Okay. The reason, once the travel documents, we put pressure on them to complete the travel documents. Once the documents were completed and our lawyer was involved in Lebanon, their reasons for not handing them over to the women was that they would only hand over the documents if the government confirmed that they would be paying for the tickets, which they hadn't done yet. So I think that was just a bureaucratic ploy to get the women to sign a document to relieve the government of all its responsibilities that they had been failing for several months anyway. So that's my thoughts around it. And we have a recording yet again. Like I said, I'm not in the business of guessing why people do what they do. I take everything face value. And whatever I communicate, I always have facts on this phone, which has right now almost 60,000 receipts, screenshots, and voice memos, not just of the Gambian initiative, but of other initiatives and projects that I'm running. We must always back up what we're able to say, and not everything is released, but I think the conversation with the consulate has already been released so that you can hear why they didn't believe that I would be paying the tickets. Yeah, it's irrelevant now because I've already paid for the tickets.
Also, during the process, did the guard explain to you how long they've been trying to engage the consulate or the Gambian government to try and help and facilitate their return back to the Gambia?
9 months.
9 good months. Okay, now that the girls are back home safe and sound, will you say that either Mr. Khalid or the Gambia government were benefiting from the ladies being in Lebanon?
I cannot comment on that, unfortunately, but what I will ask your viewers to think about is, if you're a consulate in Lebanon and you have no Gambians in Lebanon, what is your job?
What is your job? You heard Miss Lovette Jallow there. We'll take a short break, and when we come back, we'll still continue with this conversation with Miss Lovette Jallow, a humanitarian worker, a Pan-African, a sister, a Gambian who really work out there to help our Gambian sisters to get back home safely in the Gambia. We'll take a short break with me, Lamin Jammeh, your presenter on Diaspora. I'm sorry. I'm sorry because you wouldn't see your mom again, because he's passed away. I'm sorry your father has equally passed away. Your brother, sister, all gone too soon. I'm sorry that I couldn't save them, because there is no cure. All our hospitals and mortuaries are full. The health system is crumbling down because most of the doctors and nurses are dying of coronavirus. Coronavirus is real. Save yourself, save me, and save your families and loved ones by wearing a face mask, wash your hands regularly, use hand sanitizers. In this way, you protected, I'm protected, they are protected. Stay safe and stay healthy. Welcome back. I'm your presenter, Lamin Jammeh, with my very special guest today, Miss Lovette Jallow. Miss Jallow, I quote from one of your quotations that you said, if these girls didn't return back home by Friday, be prepared. The truth will be released. What do you really mean by this? Can you elaborate a little bit on it?
What I mean is that I would have released videos that even some of the women have asked me not to release for their best interests. Because what people fail to understand is that because I've started this NGO, I have legal guidelines I have to abide by. But I also have moral and ethical guidelines that I have to abide by. One of them has been that some very, very forthcoming information has been released about the involvement of prominent Lebanese families in Gambia, as well as persons within the government who are engaged in this trafficking scheme into the kafala system. They benefit from it. I have their names, I have recordings, I have paperwork as well. So what I meant was that right now you should be happy that we're just asking for the girls to be allowed to go home, because that's the least that you can do for them. But if you push my hand, I will have to step away from my morals and my ethics, and against the wishes of some of the people who've provided this proof, to put it all into a public arena so that people know the severity and how deep this problem goes. And I wasn't going to be sorry about doing that at all, because I do feel like I have to be able, and I owe it to the Gambian people, for them to see the faces of the persons behind this entire problem to begin with. And I keep my promises. That's one thing. I keep my promises down to a T, which means if these women did not sit on that flight on Friday, by 12 midday, I had already prepared the post and a public statement to go out, putting out every single information of everyone involved.
This is one of the most important or interesting part of it, because the next question I want to ask you, do you believe that there are people in the Gambia or within the Gambia government who really engaging with the kafala system back in Lebanon or even in the Gambia?
I'm not alleging anything. I know. It's a fact. So when people say she's alleging accusations, call a spade a spade. I'm not alleging anything. I'm not accusing nobody. I'm saying there is factual evidence that links prominent people in the current Gambian government with the kafala system. Simple. I don't guess. I don't allege. I make statements and I stand by them. The only reason why I haven't voiced out their names is because of the women involved, their wishes for me not to, because if I mention one person, I also have to mention my sources. I have to give documentation. That's going to place these women in a very severe position of target. So it's only their wishes that I was following. And for me, I just wanted them back home. But I don't know who else is going to get trafficked in the next coming months, years. If people don't wake up from this that I'm saying, that Dubai, Saudi, Kuwait, Lebanon, I'm not going to do a project like this again. And I want to be absolutely clear. If any Gambian person leaves to go to these Arab countries after we've just delivered these women back home, they better be prepared for the inhuman treatment that is going to follow. And they better be prepared to take their own responsibility to come back home. I did this as an example that we can help the people going who did not know what they were facing. But now I feel like every single media channel has really, really done its job and really communicated what lies ahead if you go as a maid or as a shop assistant to these countries without really having verification of what you're entering. So now we're operating on a at your own risk.
I'm sure this is quite disturbing for us to know, or the viewers to know, that there are people in our system, or even living in the Gambia, who are engaged with the kafala system. Because when I've done my research, even the Lebanese in the sub-Saharan Africa in the late 18th century went to sub-Saharan Africa due to economic migration as well. But next question I want to ask you, were you trying to instigate violence against the Lebanese community in the Gambia?
Absolutely not. And I think anybody with maybe half a functioning brain would be able to listen to my words that I said clearly. And this is something I'm saying for the first time ever. I have been contacted by young men in the Gambia whose family members have lost their lives in these countries. They were angry, they have nothing to lose, and they were preparing to go and burn down a couple of shops. They were ready for that if these women did not come home. What people fail to understand on the outside is that whilst people are accusing me of instigating violence, in fact, my voice was the only voice that these boys respected enough to not go and instigate violence. Because I told them that we can fix this in other ways. Their sisters will be coming home, even if they're not blood relations. So my voice was the only voice stopping violence. In fact, if I never mentioned that I fear for the Lebanese businesses in Gambia, we would be having a different conversation, you and I, today, about the impact of these women being trafficked and abused in Lebanon. Do you understand what I mean?
I'm listening. I do understand very well what you mean by that. But you would have taken responsibility. Would you have taken responsibility if anything has happened to their businesses back home in the Gambia?
Not at all, because it's not on my shoulders.
Yeah,
I'm somebody that's telling people not to burn businesses. So if those people want to act, everybody has their own agency. Even the women I brought home, every single one of them have their own agency, their own responsibility, and their own lives. So every action has a reaction. Every action has a repercussion. Every human being has to be ready to take action and face repercussion. Simple. And that includes the Lebanese businesses and the Gambian people. You do something good, you're going to reap the consequences. If you do something bad, you're going to reap the consequences. And we live, I hope, anyway, we live in a world of laws and regulations. So if you do violence...
Yeah, but because the reason I'm saying that, Ms. Lovette Jallow, is purely based on the fact that we saw one of your workers back in the Gambia, or one of the people that associate with you, quite very aggressive on a video as a threat towards the Lebanese community. So this is why I was asking you, if anything had happened to them, will you have taken responsibility, or your NGO?
I don't know who you're referring to, but our people that are in the NGO is myself, Ami, my assistant, my mom, and 7 board members. Anybody else is working for their own NGOs, and we may help work with them to facilitate in the amount that they're able to help, but we are not responsible for their individual NGOs' behavior or actions. That is for them. So let's be very clear about the guidelines. I speak for my NGO, so if I stood up and said, go out and do X, Y, and Z, That is my responsibility. If I speak out and say, I fear this might happen, that's a worry I'm allowed and I'm valid in expressing to my followers that I'm very worried. Now, what another NGO or its officer, director does, that's their responsibility. I can't speak for them. You might have to invite them and speak to them directly about that.
Going back to the government, on the 31st of August, we saw that the government, one of the standard newspapers, reported that the government even denied working with you for the repatriation of the Gambian migrant workers. Was there any agreement between you and the government before the signing of their papers to leave Lebanon?
Oh, definitely. There was plenty of arguments between me and the government before the signing of their papers. I think that was witnessed by everyone because I was very transparent in updating the public of every step of the way. So I'm not even going to sugarcoat it and say we had a disagreement. No, we had a full-blown argument. We had a full-blown argument, absolutely, because the person who is a spokesperson is not facilitating contact with the minister. They're blocking, they're removing on Facebook, they are spreading information that is misinformation. So at the end of the day, it makes me wonder if they even know what their job description is, because they were not following it. So we had a big argument. Let's not even be diplomatic about it and say it was a disagreement. It was a full-blown argument, yeah.
We also saw in Nigeria, the Lebanese community there has helped facilitate to bring lots of Nigerians back into their country, back in Nigeria. Did you receive any help from the Lebanese community in the Gambia or any advice of such a nature?
Well, let's put it this way. I have been contacted by 5 representatives of the Lebanese families in the Gambia. And for 5 conversations that I have recorded, they were more worried about their businesses than asking me how I'm feeling or how the women are feeling or what they can do. So in this entire project, no Lebanese Gambian has helped facilitate anything. And that is what I was saying from the beginning, that their silence really shows where they sit on this matter. You did not contact me to say, Lovette, my business wants to donate to the women directly $10,000, $5,000, $1. You're not calling me to say, hi, Lovette, my business wants to donate to these women diapers and Pampers for the babies that are coming home. Your business did not contact me to say, when the women arrive, we're willing to give them some clothing so that they can have clothes to clothe them or food to feed them. You're not contacting me. No Lebanese Gambian has contacted me to ask me, how are the women, Lovette? Every single one of them, without fail, wanted to tell me, Lovette, we're good Lebanese, we're good Lebanese. If you're good, you don't have to say anything about it. Your actions speak for you. If you're bad, your actions speak for you. And if you are silent, you're on the side of the bag, automatically. So no Lebanese Gambian has stood up, except one, and that was in Lebanon. It was our lawyer in Lebanon. And she was paid $5,000 US for her job. So no Lebanese has worked for free. No Lebanese person has facilitated buses. No Lebanese person has facilitated hotels. No Lebanese person has even had the heart to ask me, Lovette, I see you crying on social media. Are you okay? So that begs the question again. Why do you own about 30% of the businesses in Gambia and you don't give a damn about Black women and how your country treats them? Because Lebanese Gambians in Gambia are not Gambians. They are Lebanese Gambians like I am Swedish Gambian. I cannot be one or the other. I'm both. So I'm still responsible for how Gambian people, if they're in trouble, how I should behave, and Swedish people, how I should behave. I have empathy for both my countries. I'm patriotic about Sweden and Gambia. I want to help both sides. But most of all, why are the Lebanese Gambians in Gambia only responsible for painting a nice image of Lebanese people? I don't care about that. The Lebanese have shown me where they stand. You pay them to do their work, they'll do it. But when it comes to empathy, there is lacking, there is none. And we have to address that. Why are we so kind and open and called the smiling coast of Gambia? Because we embrace every single person that comes into our country, but they never embrace us in their country or in our own. And that is the problem. And I have told these people, do not call me again. to tell me how good Lebanese are. Because that's like a white person calling me to say, not all white people are bad. Or a man calling me to say, not all men rape. Enough men rape for us to have a problem with patriarchy. Enough white people are racist for us to be discussing racism and Black Lives Matter. Enough Lebanese people are silent or complicit in the discrimination of Black women for us to say Lebanese people and Lebanon is problematic when it comes to Black bodies. How is that not clicking for people?
Lovette, during those 5 families that have been in contact with you, talking about their business, how they want their businesses to be safe, how they are good Lebanese in the Gambia, did your NGO try to engage them and say, look, if you want to be safe, if your businesses are good, you're supporting Gambians, can you do something about this issue in Lebanon? Did you engage them?
Yes, I did, and I have it recorded. I have just been so tired with all of this that I can't every day post one thing and engage in discussion. If I posted what they were saying to me on the phone and how heated it got, trust me, no businesses would stand. So that's my responsibility as well. Just because I record something doesn't mean I have to publish it to show how inept somebody is. Because I think every single one of the Lebanese people that contacted me have a sense of hubris. They overestimate their value to the Gambia. They think they're so good that even when Lebanese businesses would be attacked, theirs wouldn't be. And I assured them, yours is on the list of the businesses people are planning to attack. So your goodness, you're overestimating it. Goodness, according to our Quran, according to the Bible, according to the Torah and the Talmud of the Jews, goodness is nothing you speak about. It's something you do. It's something you feel in your heart. So you can say, I can sit here and say, Lovette is a good person. If nobody has seen my good actions or felt my good action, I shouldn't be speaking at all. And I would never say I'm a good person. Depending on how you approach me, I'm either good or bad. And I will accept both sides. But I will fight for my people every single day. Black men, Black women, Black children. And I add on top of that, that's why it's called Action for Humanity, not Action for Black people. It's Action for Humanity. I've helped white women who have been raped. I have helped white men who have been discriminated, who have a function variation. So what in the Gambia you call a handicap. I work with all people of all nations. But at the end of the day, I only work with those who are most marginalized. So amongst white people, I'll work with those most marginalized. Amongst Black people, I'll work with those most marginalized. Always I'm on the marginalized side, never on the oppressor's side.
You also talk about the lump sum of money that you will be helping with these girls when they get back home to the Gambia. Have they received some of that money so far?
No, they will be receiving it tomorrow at the press conference where a lawyer will be present to distribute the money. Our team members will be present to distribute the money because I need 100% transparency because it's such a large sum of money. I want it to be delegated accurately, correctly, and with scruples and morals. So hence, I have been very careful in how it is going to be delegated.
Can you please remind the viewers again how many women are involved? I know it's 36 or 38 you said, and how many kids as well?
There's 38 persons, Gambian citizens, and 2 of them are children. One of them is 4 years old, and one of them is 11 months, going to be 12 months, and we'll be celebrating it in the Gambia.
Right. On a final note, Lovette Jallow, what other plans have you got for these ladies now that arrive in the Gambia? What plan have you got for them?
Well, the thing is, we say human beings plan and God laughs. So for me, I place it in the hands of Allah the Almighty. It was because of Allah that I got involved in this, or they even found me. It's because of Allah we have been able to navigate some stormy waters until we reach African soil. It's because of Allah I'm able to wake up every day and have the strength to continue. So all praise goes to Allah, because it's in His name that this has been done. Now, there's a lot of plans in action, but the first and foremost one is the delivery of the financial package that my NGO has promised in the sum of 1 million Gambian dalasi. That's just to give them some time to acclimatize themselves to the new environment, to be able to help themselves. I hope that the local organizations and the government will see what has been achieved in a month and maybe also allow the Gambian diaspora, those of us willing and able enough, to be able to help our people. I hope that there'll be changes in policies that will be able to respect women enough to keep them safe and secure. I hope Black men in the Gambia, whether they're rich, poor, or in between, will realize that women are suffering and we have to help them. Wherever you see a woman in distress, respect them, help them, never harm them, and never allow anybody else to harm them simply because of the color of their skin. Just because someone's lighter than you doesn't mean they're smarter than you, doesn't mean they're more intelligent than you, doesn't mean they're more capable than you. In fact, there's a reason Black people were first on this earth. We make space for every single diversity of races and ethnicities. We are the mothers of the world. Africa feeds the world, but everybody wants to starve Africans, including our own. That must stop. We have to stop asking, what is Europe doing for us, the West doing for us, and start thinking, what are we actually doing for them? And what are we doing for each other? We need to elect government officials that are responsible, that are transparent, that are held accountable, that do not sleep through their days when their citizens are crying out for fish, for food, for housing, for electricity, for water. We need to be as welcoming to our own people in the Gambia as we are to Tubabs, to Lebanese, to Mauritanians, to everybody. So that's what I can say.
Before I round up, Robert, what can you tell us in regards to the hijacking by the government to these ladies on their arrival in Senegal, Dakar?
I think it's very unprofessional. It's very unbecoming. It's very ethically wrong. When I have addressed this with the government, asking them, do you want to help us with the buses? Do you want to facilitate from the car airport all the way into Gambia?
So let me just jump in. Sorry to interrupt you there. Let me just jump in. Did you actually involve the government again to help facilitate to get these ladies from Senegal?
Listen, I am what they call Nyaka Jom. I believe in the person's ability until the very end.
Bul ñaka jom nañ ko leral rek bul ñaka jom nañ ko leral ndax government bi yow engagé nga leen waat pour wax leen ne ni doomi réewi Gambia aga nañ Dakar léegi nañ leen jël pour yóbbu leen Gambia.
No, when we saw the flight tickets and we saw they were landing in the car, because I requested them to land in the car, otherwise they would wait a longer time for direct flights to Gambia. I said, again, can you please help us facilitate the buses and quarantine hotel? That way we can work together. We now know we have tickets. We now know it's paid. Can we work together? I called them and asked for the consulate to accompany the women to the airport as well. So trust me, I have really engaged the government. Like I said, I call it Nyaka Jom because they've shown me once, twice, no, and I still keep on asking, can we work together? This would be such an amazing ending if we say, my NGO brought the women all the way to the car and the government took over and took them to Gambia, their country. No answer. I won't even say I got a no answer. So for us to arrive in the car and see that they are waiting with their buses, and they weren't just waiting, they sent a delegation to go in and tell the women to exit through another exit of the airport than where we were standing. For me, that's unethical because these women had traveled through Istanbul, arrived in the car, they were tired, they had babies on their back, they had all of these bags to pack up, and you're trying to lure them into another exit than where our team was waiting. So that's something that I have to put praise in the diplomat that was in the car helping us. Yeah, so we had diplomats engaged to be part of our delegation. And my mom, who is the communications manager, she called them and she said, if you mess this up now, we will never forgive you. We will never forgive you if you traumatize these women again, because you're behaving like you're not a woman, you're behaving like you're not a mother, you're behaving in ways that we will never forgive you. And they backed off, but they were sitting on the side claiming they're going to follow our buses all the way to Gambia.
They were sitting on the side following your bus all the way to Gambia. Mbokk yéen a ko déggandoor doomi réewi Gambia ki nga xam ne nii mu ngi tuddal Lovette Jallow moo def liggéey gu rëy googu noonu fële ne la si Libanon jël doomi réewi Gambia yi dimbale leen ñi nga xamoon ne ñu ngi doon ñaxtu di ñaan pour ndimbal pour dellu ci réewi Gambia mu nekkoon li nga xam ne ni jafewoon na trop jàngoon na trop si réewi Gambia si gouvernement Gambia moom muy Lovette Jallow di nga xam ne ni c'est humanitarian worker moo jël liggéey bu métti googu noonu ak NGO bi facilité ba suñ doomi réewi Gambia yooyu noonu dellu Gambia di ko jaajëfal bu baax a baax ak NGO bi ak képp ki nga xam ne mu ngi ànd ak moom di liggéey moom si liggéey gu rëy gi muy def nii. Bigos, thank you very much for staying in tune with me, your presenter Lamin Jammeh, on this very special show with my special guest, Miss Lovette Jallow. Thank you very much for joining me on the Diaspora Eye.